Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong, I won't stop to the top, so you better back off and get lost. I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out, never heading south. I'll be spreading out, call it word of mouth, can't put me down, I'll be getting loud. You can have your doubts, not what I'm about, have your fucking clout. It be raining now, I keep making sound, go another round, bitch I'm legend bound, can't stop me now.
You don't wanna fuck with me, a slow burn like a disease. Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can.
It's showtime.
Welcome to Friday Night Lights. I'm your host, Mikey. And normally, my partner in crime, Tommy, is not here tonight, obviously, but we got our boy, Jarek from Jan Sports filling in. What's going on, brother?
Nothing much, man. Listen, ready to get the show going, man. I'm happy to be back. And, man, we got a lot of things we got to talk about, man, so I'm excited.
Yeah, so first let's start with last week. I wanted to get your take last week's game, as I haven't talked to you since the first preseason game. Give me your 3 ups for last week's game, and then your 3 concerns for last week's game.
I definitely thought that one of the positives was definitely I thought our backup quarterback situation was okay. I mean, Kyle Allen for the most part wasn't a big disappointment, but Matt Barkley was. Matt Barkley I definitely would give him the green light. He was definitely really okay. He's definitely fighting for that backup position, that backup job. He knows this offense. Obviously, he's a veteran. We like his moxie, his bravado. We love his charisma. There's some stories that he actually went into the Colts locker room, and he actually went in there in halftime. He says, "What are you doing here?" He says, "I'm letting you DBs know I'm ready to bust your ass." So I'm like, whoa, I'm like that's Matt Barkley is that big personality, that big character that we all love. And he definitely was excellent, and he's going to be fighting for that number 2 slot right behind Josh. So I thought that was a positive sign. I thought another one was our defensive line. I thought that we were able to provide some decent pressure, especially against Anthony Richardson. We all know how freakish, athletic he was. So the fact that we was able to contain him in the pocket, and that even he was able to go on the outside, we was able to do a really good job of really pursuing him and not really giving him too much space, too much cushion. So I like the way how obviously I think our entire defensive line was able to kind of hold up front. I still feel like we need to still improve on the run game. We need to be a little bit stronger there in the interior, but overall wise, I was really impressed. I thought that our pass rushers did a pretty solid job, especially against their first team. I mean, that was the Colts' first team out there, and I thought we did a pretty good job of establishing some pressure. And the third thing I liked, I thought our running game was okay. I thought our running game was decent. It can definitely be a little bit better, but I liked what I saw from Cook. I liked what I saw from some of our other backup guys. I would love to see Damian Harris, and that's probably going to be my first arrowhead down, was the fact that we did not get to see Damian Harris. Like, yes, we saw Latavius Murray, and Latavius Murray had, again, you see why, even at the age of 33, why he's still in this roster, because he's a big running back, big bell cow guy that can run in between the tackles, can run right between the A gap, the B gap. You can put him in goal line situations, and he can be that big bell cow. But that's what Damian Harris is for, because we need explosiveness. We need that explosion combined with that toughness and physicality. And if he's not going to be available for us, that's going to be a concern. Again, I know a lot of people are not big fans, especially Bills fans, are not big fans of Ezekiel Elliott. But I mean, I would have rather just went with Ezekiel Elliott, because at least he's available. I mean, yes, he's 240 pounds and overweight, yes, but he is available. He's a nice pass blocker, and again, in goal line situations, or if you want those 2-3 yard chunks, especially if it's for short yard situations, I would rather have Ezekiel Elliott than Damian Harris, because that person's going to be available. So I thought that was kind of an arrow down, was that we didn't have our second guy available for us to play. I thought receivers it wasn't the worst performance I've seen from our receivers, from some of our backup guys, but we did have some crucial catches. Some guys were running some of the wrong routes. You can tell that, especially with Kyle Allen with the second string. Definitely didn't seem like the chemistry was definitely there. So I'll say our receiving core definitely needs to get a little bit, at least show a little bit more depth there at second. And then probably the last arrowhead down for me, I definitely thought was our defensive backs. I think the same thing. I don't think there was any group in particular that I was disappointed in. But I definitely would say the defensive backs, we got to have more depth. We got to have more availability. I thought that Elam didn't have his best game, especially, you want, he's battling Dane Jackson for that second quarterback spot. So you would like to see him have a better performance, but you did see some instances and some moments where, he can definitely be improved. But yeah, I definitely would see our overall wise, our defensive backs become a lot better, especially in those situations. That you can make an argument that was one of our weak spots, was our cornerbacks. But I thought everywhere else, I mean, again, I don't think that any position group did particularly bad. I would definitely like to see in the second game, though. You want to see more improvement. You want to see more of a showcase, especially with our tight ends. Like Dalton Kincaid was on the field, but he really wasn't involved a lot that much, or he wasn't really targeted as much. You want to see what the combination was between him and Dawson Knox. You want to see some 12 and 13 more, 13 personnel packages more, since that's what we keep seeing in practices, but it's not really being seen that much in in-game situations. So it's just about a lot of it's a lot of the promises or some of the potential that we keep seeing for anyone who's actually gone to the training camps, or that we keep seeing through the highlight reels. We're not seeing those in real game situations. And that was a concern going into last year, that, we kept receiving all these promises from what Ken Dorsey and McDermott have been saying, but by the time we actually got into game time, it never happened. And, you saw a lot of, what was our biggest criticism? Creativity. So hopefully next game we can see more of that, more of those packages that we were promised of getting. But yeah, overall, Isaiah, those are kind of my thoughts about that.
Right on. Yeah. So let's just touch base on some of your downs. So let's go with Kaiir Elam first. I thought Kaiir had an up and down game, much like our receiving core, where we had a lot of drops again, key drops. Like Shakir had an up and down. He had a couple really nice, tough catches, but then drops the easy one. Can't have that. Quentin Morris dropped a third down pass that would have put us close to a first down that we probably would have went for it. Chase Sternberger made a fantastic catch, but then fumbled. Shavers had one bounce off his hands into another guy's hands for a pick six. And then he dropped another one earlier. So when you look at these guys, Elam, from his standpoint, if he stops grabbing, the dude's in good position. His problem is he's too handsy. He's got to figure out a way to just not reach out and touch somebody. Use your technique, which you have, press man technique. Why the hell aren't you using it? And that's kind of been his bugaboo. Once he cleans that up, I think he's gonna be a very good corner. I was a little bit disappointed in Benford when you talk about our corners, as Benford got a PI too, but he didn't show up anywhere in the film. I didn't see much of him at all outside of the PI. So I'd like to see a little bit more of Benford this week and see him actually show up. And then, I mean, you're getting to the later guys. I think our roster corners and safeties were good, but the later guys, they're projects. You kind of get what you get. So that's just my thoughts on those downs. So I know someone's asked where's Tommy. Tommy is at a wedding. So what we did is we went ahead and sat him down for the night and said he's not going to play, and we have Jarek filling in. It's the starters tonight.
I'm second string.
Yeah, no. You're your first string tonight.
Okay.
We're what did they say? We're doing testing on other co-hosts. When Jarek's and a Wally Pip, Tommy.
I'm like Ken Dorsey, man. I'm fresh. I'm still learning.
Yeah. So we kind of went through the ups and downs of last week, which was great. One down that you didn't talk about that I had was our middle linebacker spot.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I am not sure I am ever at the ready to call code red like Tommy. I don't know if you saw Tommy's video this week, and if anybody hasn't, make sure you go check it out. Tommy dropped a video this week about our middle linebacker position and Dodson in general. I don't know if I'm ready to sound the alarm to where he's at, but Dodson looked bad. He was out of place. Anytime they ran play action, he's always 2 steps forward. The one thing that we're going to miss about Edmonds is his size over the middle. He closed a lot of those over the middle lanes just because of how big he was. Quarterbacks wouldn't go there. Pittsburgh's going to eat us alive over the middle if he continues doing that. this week. And not having Bernard, who's been hurt, or anybody else in that competition. And then this week he's been getting in fights left and right. What's your state about our middle linebacker position? What are you feeling?
Everything that I saw when I went there in training camp that's exactly how it was. I mean, Dotson he was the person with the most experience, but he has probably the highest floor, but the lowest ceiling. Bernard has the highest ceiling, but he has right now a low floor. I mean, for the most part, Bernard if you simply like him as a pass rusher, by far the best linebacker by far. And then Spector is kind of the all around type of guy where, Spector is not. I mean, he's not particularly great in particular areas, but he's not particularly weak in certain areas as well. But he still has to kind of still learn the defense a little bit. It's just not a good position. It's not really the middle linebacker slot is not a good position right now. And this is kind of this is why the Jack Campbell draft spot was kind of, even though we love Kincaid, this is why we initially had concerns, because it's like, what are you going to do at middle linebacker? What are you going to do at the inside linebacker position? Because this is a weak draft class, and the best one, we just lost that spot. So you hope and pray. You just hope and pray that we can either find somebody in free agency, we can maybe make some trades where it's not going to cost us that much. I don't think that this linebacking group is it. Bernard, for the most part, I like him better as an outside linebacker and not as an inside linebacker. I think that Spector is not ready yet. I still see him as a special team. Him and Dotson as special team contributors. I don't see them as starting material. So they need to figure out extremely quickly what they need to do about that middle linebacker position. Or again, do we need to switch up some different formations or schematics to kind of fit their needs a little bit more? Because, again, if we're going to be running this cover 2, where especially in pass cover situations where a lot of these guys are going to be dropping back, we're not going to be utilize these guys to their strengths. It's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day for this defense, especially in the run game. I didn't really even like these guys that much in the run game as far as close. I mean, the best one, in my opinion, was probably Bernard, as far as a person that can close down the gaps and be a little more physical in the box. But everyone else was just mediocre at best for what I was able to see.
Yeah, and everyone's got start Williams. Williams looked like the best linebacker outside of Milano.
Oh, by far.
Last week. The issue with Williams is the play calling. So we talked about this a little bit after the game last week, and then again on Monday. I don't understand the hesitancy of McDermott not to give the green dot to Poyer, and then put your best 2 linebackers on the field. Because you put Williams and Milano on the field together, that's a way better duo than putting Dodson or Bernard, who is smaller than Williams. He's undersized. He's going to get washed out in the run game. Like, at this point, Dodson has looked so bad, I would almost prefer us to see AJ Klein out there. I know what AJ Klein is. I know he can play. He's going to get abused in the pass game, but he's not going to get washed out. He's going to be in the spots he's supposed to be in. He's reliable. I've said from the start, I don't think our middle linebacker is on our roster. I think we're going to pick somebody up. After I think we're either going to make a deal right around cut day, or we're going to pick up someone who's been cut, because there's going to be a lot of linebackers that are let go, and then it's going to take them a week or two to get in. So we're going to have a Dodson or a Klein starting for a week or two until that linebacker is up and ready to come in and run with our team.
Yep.
Oh, I like this one, Scott. Even Cosell said he was the best linebacker and he loves his range. What the F are we doing? We say that about a lot of players. We say that about last year about why isn't Benford or Elam, playing more? What are we doing? Now, I think Dane Jackson gets a lot of hate, and he's, judged a little bit harsher. There's a lot of Levi Wallace, slander that gets thrown on Dane Jackson. He's better than Levi was. And he was also playing CB1 last year. Dane was. People forget that, before Trey comes back. So it's a different role for him this year. So I don't know. I'm concerned, but I'm not ready to hit the panic button yet.
No, I mean, I think everywhere else in the field is pretty straight. I mean, I think if for the most part, I think our safeties are going to be fine. I thought for what I've seen, for what I've seen from Poyer, pretty much all during training camp and the little that we see from him, I think he's back into form. I think Micah Hyde's eventually going to get back into form. He's looked pretty fluid pretty much all camp. Nothing out of the ordinary seems wrong with him. In particular, seems to me he's got that speed back, which was the biggest concern, was the speed, quickness. It seems like if everything's there. It's just the biggest concerns for me is middle linebacker. It's linebacker. That's the only position of need that we.
The only concern I have. Like, there's people who are concerned about the quarterback, but I'm not as concerned about the quarterback. Is Josh doesn't tend to miss time, So whoever QB2 is, I'm fine with. My biggest concern is middle linebacker. Like, that's the only concern I have. And we have depth at corner, we have depth at safety, we have depth along the interior offensive line. It might be time to package some of that up and go get yourself a linebacker that could play, because you gotta
find somebody. I mean, otherwise Milano's gonna have to learn that. He's gonna have to learn. I know he doesn't want to play it, but you may not have a choice. You may not have a choice, because Dotson's just not. He's not the answer. He's not. Even when he played last year when Emmett was hurt, I mean, he wasn't the answer.
Yeah.
At least when Klein was the backup, when Klein was involved. At least during the COVID year, I mean, AJ Klein had a role, and AJ Klein, I mean, he didn't have that much responsibility. You gave him a role, and he took advantage of it, But Dotson has had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, and it has just not worked.
Yeah,
I know what I got from Dotson.
Yeah, and Buffalo Dave comes in and says Micah Hyde actually looks refreshed. The year off helped him. Not only the year off, but the neck injury that he had. He had a neck injury prior to this last one that he had been playing with for a long time. He talked about it. He said, he used to have a hard time getting out of bed and sleeping and stuff like that. And now there's no issues, no pain in the neck. He's feeling like, he's in his early 20s again, he said, running around out there, which is awesome.
Yep. That was my biggest concern, was going to lose the speed, but no, everything seems fine.
Red, White, and Bills comes in and says we're going to have to trust McDermott and call the plays around the middle linebacker. It's important. You know what? That's a very good take from Sean. McDermott's going to have to scheme around it. If that's what he's going with, and these are the guys that they've chose to keep here, McDermott has faith in him, and he keeps saying how much faith he has in him. He's going to have to scheme around it. I don't know how he's going to do it, but it'll be interesting to see. I guess we'll find out tomorrow, as all the starters are playing a quarter and a half, so we'll see more. Joey Ashman says they said Dorian Williams has the pop. You guys like to lay the lumber when he tackles. You guys could see it in the film against Colts. Yeah, Dorian Williams was fantastic against Dorian Williams also comes in from a very simplistic defense. We don't run a very simple defense. We run a very complex defense, and that's been the biggest concern. Can he pick it up? Our offense is very complex. We had Naeem Hines who came in middle of the year and couldn't figure out the offense, which is why it was so surprising. And everyone's been raving about Andy Isabella so quickly, is because he's picked up our offense. He understands where he's supposed to be and things like that. And with our super complex offense. So it'll be interesting. We have Milano, we have one.
You need another. You need somebody else to play with him.
Oh man, maybe we run more dime sets this year and we bring in Taylor Rapp. I don't know who's calling the plays if he does that though. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. So let's talk a little bit about this game tomorrow night. When we look into Pittsburgh, we know Pittsburgh's going to start. This is a great dress rehearsal for us, because Pittsburgh has a very good D line, and I thought our offensive line played really well last week. Now we have Josh out there. I'll be interested to see if Torrance gets the start this week like he did last week. It's going to tell us a lot. The rotation with this week with Josh is going to tell us a lot, kind of where everyone stands, on the roster. So if Torrance gets the start and we don't see Bates until the second team, or even the second or third series to bring him down, that's going to kind of tell you where he stands. Same with the rotation of the receivers. There's a lot of talk about Andy Isabella getting first team reps and Shakir being on the bubble. A lot of beat reporters are talking about Shakir being on the bubble, which kind of blows my mind, because like how much they've loved him. Yeah, he's had an up and down, training camp, but Andy Isabella has been on multiple rosters throughout. So really, you're going to cut a young, someone who has multiple years left on his young cheap contract for a veteran who's bounced around the league? That doesn't make any sense to me. What's your thoughts on the Isabella hype right now?
Yeah, I listen, Shakir again, he's had you're right, he's had up and down training camp, he's had some up and down games, but again, he's a young player. This is his second year in the league. And again, he's made a lot more, he's made more bigger plays than Andy Isabella has made throughout his career at Arizona. I like what Shakir brings to the table. I like I like the way how he runs routes. Again, he does need to work a little bit more on his hands. His hands need to become a little bit stronger, but I like his approach overall to the game. He has really, really good speed. He has extremely good quickness. Again, he's a utility guy, right? I mean, we don't really he can run with that Isaiah McKenzie type role where you can use him pretty much anywhere on the field, and that's exactly he's special at that role. That's what made him such a hype player coming out of the draft when he was coming out of Boise State. And I just don't feel like we're really utilizing him to his biggest strengths yet. So I think for Shakir, I don't think that if again the Isabella hype. Again, I think that he has surpassed his role for what they were trying to give him. I think that for the most part, they wanted him more as a depth piece, and he probably more on special teams because obviously with the Hines situation was going on, they needed somebody that can potentially become that special teams ace. I think Isabella has provided some much needed depth, and I feel like for the most part he's exceeded his role. And so that they want to try to give him more of an opportunity since he's had, he's had a nice camp so far. But again, I just think everything that you have from Shakir, he's on a cheap deal. He still has a lot more upside to his game. We still have not used him right to the best of his ability. I feel like for the most part, Shakir should still be on this roster. If he gets cut or if he gets traded away, this is going to feel like a Isaiah Hodgins type move where I feel like if some other team is going to take him up and they're going to use him right. So I don't think that this should be the end all be all for him. I think that for the most part, again, if you want to leave Isabella on the roster and if you feel like he has a much needed need on special teams, I'm all for it. But if anything, like I said, there's other players on this roster that should be on the bubble but aren't on the bubble for some odd reason. I don't think Shakir is one of those players that should be on the hot seat because obviously again he's had some up and down performances, but it's not like he is by far the worst player in training camp. He's been solid. He's been okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if you saw it, but I was listening to Chris Brown and Steve Tasker talk about it, and Tasker listed, and he doesn't have Shakir making a roster.
Which is crazy. It's crazy.
Right? He has Isabella and he doesn't even have Shakir or Shorter making this roster. He has Isabella and Shavers making this roster.
Shavers has been nice in camp, but Shavers in preseason, no. Come on.
I'm just telling you what,
Come on.
When they went through and did it, they and honestly, they're in the building more than we are, and hearing that had me concerned. And it sounds like, Tasker's out on Shakir altogether, which is crazy. Because wow. he had Shavers, Shorter, and Isabella all in front of Shakir to make the roster, which is insane to me. And I think he even had Keyshawn Johnson in front of him, in front of Shakir making the roster. Like he just seems completely out on the guy, and I'm like, what am I missing? Is there some, like I understand he's had up and down camp, but that's crazy.
Yeah, Shavers has had up and down camp. It's not like he's been. I mean, Shavers has made a lot more mistakes too. Same as Shakir. This is what I just don't really understand. Now again, from what I've seen, Shakir and Shavers, it's not a big gap, right? Both of these players have made crucial mistakes, but both of these players have made big plays. So I'm not seeing why Shavers. I mean, again, do you like Shavers because of his height? I mean, again, he is 6'6", he's 200 pounds, but he does have some. I mean, again, and he has really nice speed. He has 4.3 speed, but separation has been one of his biggest flaws. And even during camp and even during preseason, he's been inconsistent as far as separation goes. Shakir has been way more consistent as far as finding ways to get open and knowing where to be at the right time in the right situations, knowing his quarterbacks. The problem with Shakir is that, again, his hands need to get better. He needs to have, he needs to have, bigger hands. And again, he needs to have a better understanding of the offense. But I think that can be taken care of with Shakir. Shavers is another problem where I think, again, he's talented, he's big, he's strong. Maybe you can have this debate with him and Shorter, because again, I don't see how, again, Shorter is not separating himself from the rest of the pack in camp. I've not been too impressed. I haven't really even heard his name being called that much, whether if it's in preseason games so far in camp. But no, I mean, I think Shakir has been a little bit more consistent and better performance overall than Shavers.
I mean, I would think so too. It just Steve was talking about it from the fact of body size. He thought they would go with more of the bigger body rather than having a bunch of, and not that Shakir is a short guy, he's 6 foot, and he can play inside, outside, but people just tend to forget that he can play outside as well. And he has played outside for us. So me personally, I think, Shakir should make the roster. Jason comes in and says, going to be some big surprise cuts, on cut day. Hines is going to be one of them. Hines won't be a cut. Hines is actually on IR already. So we won't cut him. He's not going to be part of he won't be on the 53-man roster anyways. He's already put on IR. They're working on his contract and all that stuff. I could see us doing some kind of buyout with him because it's getting nasty on the contract piece with Hines. But, we'll see. Ooh, I sparked a debate in the chat over that, over that, over that topic. I would love, there's going to be so many tough cuts. How many corners are they going to keep? How many safeties are they going to keep? I can see him keeping 5 safeties. How many offensive linemen they're going to keep? How many defensive linemen are they going to keep? I can see him keeping 10 D linemen, 5 D tackles, 5 D ends. We're going to lose somebody, and we're going to lose somebody's multiple.
Yep. I think we need to question again Boogie Basham, Tim Settle. I mean, I think. Are they worth it? I mean, again, they're nice depth pieces on paper and guys with experience and talent, but are they worth kind of keeping on the roster? I think even with this linebacker race between Dotson, Spector, and Terrell Bernard, are you going to keep all 3 of those guys? Are you potentially going to move somebody from the outside to inside linebacker potentially? Again, safeties wise, again, are you willing to change the formation so you can make it a little bit more safety heavy? Because the middle linebacking position is not secure. I think it's all dependent on how this defense is how they're gonna be playing. Because I agree with you. We are gonna see some surprise cuts. We are definitely gonna see some more surprise cuts, especially on the defense side.
Trixon says that Shorter pick was a waste in my opinion, especially when Hutchinson's a better receiver and sitting there. It's not just Hutchinson. Trey Palmer was on the board. I thought Trey Palmer was a better receiver. The thing about Shorter is they say the reason why Shorter will make the roster isn't for his receiving prowess. It's for his special teams prowess. So if Shorter makes the roster, it's going to be from a special teams standpoint. That's the only way he makes it. Scott comes in and says 4 safeties, Hyde, Poyer, Rapp, Hamlin. The problem with that is the opposite starting gunner is Cam Lewis.
Got to factor in special teams. Got to factor.
Yeah, and they're going to factor in special teams, so that makes 5. So that's 5 safeties because Cam's technically a safety. So you'll be keeping 2 secondaries who are strictly special teams, and Saran Neal and Cam Lewis. Now Cam Lewis can play any of the outside, inside, or safety position, which is great for versatility. And he's a 4 teams, 4-way or 4-team special teamer or whatever they want to call it, 4-core special teams player. But it's one of those things of how many of those guys can you truly have? If Matakevich is going to make this roster, Neal's going to make this roster, Lewis is going to make this roster, then they're talking about maybe Isabella being the returner rather than going with our all-pro returner and Hardy. Like how many special teamers can you truly keep when you have this much, depth that you need to keep because they're good players?
Yep. That's why I'm saying, man, you can find some trade value. Find some value for these guys and get a linebacker.
Right. Yeah.
It's just they're gonna go anyway.
Yeah, really. It's one of those things. All right. Tommy's in the chat. Aren't you at a wedding, brother?
Watching the show on his wedding, man.
Yeah. We're watching the show. Dedication right there, guys. It's dedication. Chaz lit tonight. Yeah, it is lit. Chat's always lit though. They bring so much to the show. It's awesome. Jessica comes in and says Lewis is not making this roster unless less on IR. He's such a big special teamers for them, and they've kept him because of his special teams player. His play. I'll be interested to see who will. This weekend will tell us a lot. Tomorrow will tell us a ton on who goes out and is the first. Who's the opposite gunner of Seren Neal. Seren Neal's making the team because he's our special teams captain. Who's the opposite? Are we going to see a shorter? Are we going to see a Benford or someone else being a gunner on the opposite side with the first team? That's going to tell us a lot. If it's Lewis, guys, if you see Lewis out there again this week, on the opposite, chances are he's making this team.
Yep.
Red, White, Bills, Hardy's going to be our biggest mistake of this offseason. I think Hardy's biggest thing's going to come down to how does Dorsey use him. If Dorsey uses him correctly, he could be an electric piece to our offense. But I liked what I saw out of Dorsey last week, and I like what I'm hearing out of training camp with all the motion and things. But we haven't even seen what Kincaid is yet. He ran 6 snaps last week. 1 that was a pass play. The rest were all run plays, and so it'll be interesting how they rotate those guys too. I hope Hardy isn't a mistake. I hope he ends up living up to the thing. The dude's super talented and super explosive, and if Dorsey gets into his bag of tricks and can figure it out, he could be an X factor for us.
I hope so. I really do hope so. But the biggest concern that I have is because again we have a lot of electric playmakers, especially coming in and playing that slot position. But I think because of how valuable this secondary is, and I think that McDermott is afraid, or this coaching staff is afraid, that we're going to have a situation like last year, how you had a lot of important key guys that were hurt from the secondary, and you had to try to rely more on your depth to try to help and win games, and they did win some games with their secondary. I think knowing how valuable Lewis is, like you just said before, and knowing how he can play 4 different positions, they don't obviously want another Hamlin situation where if they get hurt, you have to rely on your third string safety. I think they want to keep a lot of those valuable guys because they have a lot of experience. They know this defense better than a lot of dudes, where if they do have a situation like that, they will have to bring somebody in. I think they want to keep them. I think they're considered a little more valuable compared to a Hardy, who, even though, again, Hardy's an electric playmaker, he's new to this offense, to an offensive coordinator that's still trying to work out, he's trying to work out his kinks, and he's trying to be a little more innovative, a little bit more creative. So that's kind of my fear factor, is that we're willing to lose electric playmakers that could help change the dynamic of this offense because we want to be a little conservative overall with the secondary piece, because they've been the backbone of this team for the last 4 to 5 years.
I like this. Scott comes in and says, can we put rookies on the practice squad without fear of team stealing? No. If you have less than 4 years, you go through waivers. Everyone has a chance to put a claim on them. So shorter, if we put him out there, someone's going to put a claim on him. Shakir, you cut Shakir, someone's going to put a claim on him. So you have to trade them. You can't just cut them and hope they slide through. Cam Lewis, I can see Cam Lewis making it all the way through into the practice squad. Because he's been out there a bunch and he's gone through it. I can see the Giants are about the only one that I could see really wanting to snag him, as Shane and Daboll both know him. But for the most part, we gotta be careful with the wide receiver room, and who we cut and who we don't. The corners, I think the corners are pretty set. I think the corners are going to be, White, Jackson, Johnson, Elam, Benford, and Seren Neal. It's going to be the 6 corners that you have. Then if we have 5 safeties, that's 11. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. Yeah. And listen, Joe Shane knows all these guys. He helped scout all those guys. So if we're letting these young guys go, the Giants are still in the need of picking up good players. They're still in their rebuild, so they'll quickly snag those guys. So when we're looking at it this week, from the offensive line perspective, what do you want to see this week against that Steelers defensive line? Because I'm looking at Brown going up against TJ Watt. I want to see if Brown's kick step is quicker this year than it was last year. Now, TJ Watt beats the best right tackles. So if Brown gets beat once or twice, it's not gonna be huge. I want to see, does he get out there fast enough, or is he still really slow in his kick step?
Yeah, I agree. Because even with Spencer Brown, did he play last week? Because I looked at that right tackle spot.
He played good.
That was the spot that was the spot. I'm looking like, is that a different? Who is that? Who's that player right there? So no, Spencer Brown for the most part, that's going to be a very crucial role for us moving down the line. And against great pass rushers, it's sometimes, like I said, you have your good days and you have your bad days. It's against the average linebackers, maybe even a slightly or even the above pass rushers that I have my concerns about, because that's what Spencer Brown was going to beat a lot compared to the other great pass rushers. I want to see, can he handle that? Can he work on his technique? Can he work on the kick step? Can he work on hand placement? That's what I want to see. Can he hold his ground if someone's going to try to provide a bull rush? Because I feel like even at his size, he was getting pushed back a little bit too much inside the pocket whenever someone was trying to when someone was trying to use a bull rush on him. It just seemed like everything was just completely off about him. And if we do have, again, we have that guard spot situation settled, and it is Torrance or Bates, but I do think it would be Torrance. But if Torrance can be there, then that's a bulldozer. You have a bulldozer, and then you have the potential of having another bulldozer there at the tackle spot. But if he can't be settled in pass protection, that's, again, even though the run game can be improved, what's going to happen in pass pro, where you have when you're trying to protect Josh Allen, who's been one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the National Football League, who's been one of the most hit quarterbacks in the pocket in the National Football League. That's something that we need to see improving and get better, because whenever Josh Allen gets hurt, it's not when he's outside the pocket, it's when he's in the pocket. So that's got to get better. That we need Spencer Brown again. If he can have a great game against the limited snaps against TJ Watt, great. If he does get beat here and there, it is what it is. That's TJ Watt, like you said before. He does that against the best. But it's about the little details that you want to see from Spencer Brown. That we can have something moving forward down the line, whether it's positive or negative. You want to see all these little things as far as just overall the basic fundamentals. You want to see that get down. And again, if he can get that down and continue to improve on his game, then I think we can be fine there. But the right tackle is a very crucial spot, because even at left tackle, I like Deion Dawkins a lot. He's been solid at that spot for years. But is he a all-pro material? Does he get beat here? Does he get beat now and then? Absolutely, he does. And our other guard spots, we're still trying to figure out what's going to happen there as far as centers, as far as synergizing everything else there goes. But we need Spencer Brown to do great. We need overall this entire offensive line to do great. But yeah, most importantly, if Spencer Brown again can just improve on the little details, I think that we can be absolutely fine. Because I made a bold prediction for those who may not have seen it, but the last time I was on the show, I made a bold prediction that I said that this has all the makings of being a top 10 offensive line in the league. Based off what I saw when I was at training camp, when I was in Rochester, I saw this group have way more synergizing extremely well. I saw this team be extremely physical. I saw a lot more improvement compared to when I saw the last time I was there at training camp, or when I was seeing this team in live in games. I said this team has all the makings of having a top 10 offensive line. Hopefully I'm right about that, but again, hopefully I won't be made a fool with that prediction.
I love this comment from Jessica. She comes in and says, I want to see the other young tackles, Van Denmark, Doyle, and Garage. Van Denmark looked excellent at left tackle when he came in. He looked lost at right tackle. So
Yep.
I would not be putting him at right tackle. I would be leaving him at left and slide Questenberry and Doyle over to right and see. But I want to see him play with the second team and see what he looks like with the second unit, because he looked fantastic at left last week. Like all his struggles came on the right side when he was actually out of the game, and then Doyle got hurt, so they put him back in the game, and he just wasn't prepared for the right side stuff. Van Denmark's very interesting. He's kind of a wild card. Doyle's still working his way back from a knee, so I understand it's going to be a slow burn for him. He's also needs to pick it up quickly, because there's a chance that he doesn't make this roster. And then I loved what we got out of Garage. I mean, he just looked technically sound the entire time in the game. He didn't look lost at all, but he's just so far down on the depth charts and be a tough sell for him to make it. But I can see him being one of those guys that is a practice squad and someone needing a depth tackle, kind of like, remember Little Richie that we got, Mini Richie, Anderson, was his name Anderson?
Oh,
And
the seventh round pick.
Yeah, and then he and the
Yeah,
Eagles ended up
Jack
snagging
Anderson.
him. Jack Anderson.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and they took him off the roster. I can see that with Garage. I can see him doing really well. I was hoping to get him on the practice squad and someone snagging him because I see a lot of upside in that kid. But Van Denmark is someone who I think is truly vying now that Brandon Shell has left, is retired. I see Van Denmark as a guy who could actually snag a job. So what's your thought based off of last week with those three young guys?
I thought it was a lot. I'm gonna be honest. I thought it was a lot better than our first team. I'm gonna be completely honest. I like these guys, man. I mean, we showed nice depth. We showed nice quality, especially when Matt Barkley was in the game. I liked it. I liked it overall. Again, if we can improve upon that, and again, get depth, get nice size, I think moving forward, man. Again, that's a positive sign. Whatever, that's a good situation that you can have whenever you're trying to make a debate about which players. You like every player that you see, but of course, someone has to go. You're not going to keep all your tackles. But I think it's always nice to have a situation like that. Again, my biggest concern of all the tackles is honestly Spencer Brown. It's just about consistency. Everything else from what I've seen from the second and third string level, I thought was pretty solid. They've exceeded expectations so far. And they've all, and again, this is why I keep reiterating this. This is why I say, hey, this could be a top offensive line unit because the overall offensive line unit, and they've had their rough days in training camp, but they've overall looked way better compared to last year. There's way more there's just a much better understanding of what role they're supposed to have. And I'm excited. I'm excited about, especially at tackle. I'm excited about that spot.
Mm-hmm. And I think Red, White, and Bills, and I think, the first line played only 6 snaps and they looked good. I think he meant the first wave of that second unit where we had some of the starters still on it. So when we kept Torrance out there, and then we brought in Shell at right tackle, and we brought in Bates at center, and then we had Edwards and Ben Denmark. But so I think that's what he was talking about. I don't think he was really meant, it's hard to really see what the first line was with only 6 snaps. So we'll see more.
They had limited sequences. Yeah, they had limited sequences. So I wasn't reiterating that.
But when you said with our first line, I think you meant the first set that we saw out there for a lot of times. Because I also thought Torrance was fantastic the whole game. Bates was a little rusty at center, but got better as the game went. Shell was about what I thought Shell was. Questenberry is out there, and he was what I thought he was. But then when Van Denmark came in, I thought he just held down that left tackle so much better. Jason comes in and asks, what's the injury report? The injury report's actually pretty small. The only one that wasn't practicing this week was Von Miller. Tommy Doyle's out there limited. Who else was limited? Doyle was limited. Bernard was still working off the side and was limited. Harris came back limited. DJ Dale was limited, but they were all trending towards playing, and then Vaughn was the only one that was on the pup that really wasn't trending. So I'll be interested to see if Bernard actually gets to play this week, as he did get a little bit of practice in towards the end of this week, if they get him out there or if they hold him out another week. If they hold him out another week, chance of him starting is pretty shot. So let's talk about the difference with Torrance versus Bates, that battle. What are you seeing as you went out to camp between the two? Do you see him leaning more towards Torrance, or do you think they're going to go with their trusted commodity and Bates?
I'll be shocked if they go with Bates. And I like Ryan Bates because obviously Ryan Bates is more experienced. He knows the offense extremely well. He can play literally all 3 different positions across the field, whether it's center, right guard, right tackle, he can play it. But Torrance, I mean, there is a difference, man, between a man and then Bates. Like when Torrance was on the field, when he's going against the Ed Olivers of the world, and he's going against the Settles and all these and all these other different guys that exactly the Jones, all the Puna Fours of the world, he's not moving. When he's the rep, I'm telling you, the rep was over as soon as he got hands on you because he's not moving. Again, if you didn't try to use any different type of swim moves or any other different type of techniques to try to get past him, if you simply try to do a bull rush on him, the rep's done. With Bates, when you're trying to use any sort of power moves and try to add all these all of these other different sort of technicalities into your game, when he's getting bull rushed, I mean, again, he's getting pushed back 3, 4, 5 yards. And again, it's typically, again, he can play in the trenches, but again, I actually like him more as a center or more as a right tackle compared to I like him as a guard. I think center and tackle are the much better positions for him to play. Torrance is a guy that was literally made to play in trench warfare just from overall his size. And he's faster. He's way quicker than I think I would give him than I would even anticipate, because he's lost weight. He's a lot more dedicated, because that's one of the biggest criticisms that he's had coming into this draft process. I think overall wise I think the biggest thing for Torrance is how fast can he pick up the offense? Because again, everything else in 1v1 situations, or whether if it's in zone blocking or whether if it's in zone blocking situations, I mean, he's been pretty solid. It's just about picking up the different concepts that this offense is throwing at him. How quick can he pick it up? And I think so far, I think Torrance has done a pretty damn good job so far of exceeding those, of really exceeding expectations. Because I thought that honestly, this was going to be like a tooth and nail, a nail biting type of battle, where even week 1, I wouldn't be surprised at all or maybe even week 1 or even week 2, there would be some rotating going on, just depending because of how close that could be. But no, Torrance has been, at least for me, more dominant so far than I would say compared to Bates. And again, they're going to give Bates every chance that he possibly can get because of the amount of experience they can have. But just like how we saw in that Colts game, he was working at center. I wouldn't be surprised at all in the Steelers game how you could swing him up a little bit at tackle. They're going to move him all around. Torrance is stuck in one type of position, which is going to give him a clear advantage over Ryan Bates of how quickly he can try to pick up the roles and just the overall the wrinkles that overall Ken Dorsey is going to throw at him. So I like Torrance. Torrance overall is a physical specimen. He's a freak athlete. And I think if you want to take this offensive line to the next level, especially pairing up with a player like Spencer Brown, and you have Mitch Morse in the center, or even Bates. Like Bates could be. I mean, if Mitch Morse gets hurt, who's playing there? Ryan Bates. He's gonna be playing right next to Torrance. So Torrance he's gonna see the field. He's gonna see the field a lot. I do believe that he should be a key starter for this offense, because that's that type of aggression, that type of play style that he brings to the table. That's something that's going to change Buffalo, that the overall lifeline of this offensive line, and really take this line to the next level.
It's going to be great to see too, us drafting a young offensive lineman and letting him grow, let him play through his struggles if he has them, because he did get beat last week. And when I say get beat, he got knocked off balance, but then he was able to recover and not let his guy get to the quarterback. That's the thing about Torrance, is he may get knocked off balance, but he also anchors really quick, gets his hand on a guy, and knows how to recover. He knows how to recover, which is awesome. I didn't even think about this. This is fantastic, Jessica. Torrance being on the team has helped Garage. I didn't even think about that, but I bet you're right. It gave him a level of confidence in knowing that, he has one of his buddies in there on the team to help him calm down and work his way through things. I guarantee you, Torrance and Garage have been in the playbook together. They know each other. It's why Edwards and Bates, or McGovern and Bates, would work so well together too, is they played on the same offensive line. McGovern was the center, Bates was the left tackle in college. So a lot of these guys have that flexibility. Bates, as much as I like Bates, and I do, I absolutely love the guy. I think his flexibility to be able to play, center, both guards, and then right tackle leads him to a super sub this year. I think his next starting job should be at center when Mitch Morris retires.
Yep. Is he the Cam Lewis of this offensive line?
Yeah, kind of. Except he's not on the roster bubble. He's guaranteed to make the roster. I mean, that's the only difference. But he can play so many positions and be that first guy, that sixth offensive lineman, and in 4 of the 5 positions. It's so hard to take that away, especially when you have a Torrance and Bates who are so close, and Torrance has such a larger ceiling, and I don't know. We'll be dumb not to put him out there, but we'll see tomorrow. If Torrance is out there with J17, it'll say a lot. I agree 100%. It's going to say a lot with a lot of these guys. If you see Andy Isabella, circling in the second series with Josh out there, unless Shakir's circling in too.
Yeah.
But maybe it's Shorter that's out.
I
It's
don't even
it.
really see it because you got Shirt. What are you gonna do with Sherfield? You got Sherfield, you got Hardy, and now you're
Well,
gonna circle in Isabella.
Sherfield can play the boundary.
Yeah, you can play in the
So
boundary and
so
rotational times.
Isabella and Hardy are more slot guys.
Slot guys.
I know we've always penciled Shakir in as a slot guy, but he played a lot of boundary last year too. So I think Shakir and Sherfield are the two that can play anywhere, boundary or slot. So I can see us not keeping a Justin Shorter or a Shavers and keeping Isabella if that's what they're really doing. If he looks good with Josh, but it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Lots of changes that are going to be coming. Lots of tough decisions on the offensive line and on the offense in general. But let's transition to the defense. We expect to see this to be the dress rehearsal also for the Steelers. So you're gonna get a good look at this young offense of the Steelers have. Cody Pickett in the second year. Pickens seems to be breaking out.
Yep.
Better
Deontay
offensive
Johnson.
Yep, better offensive line.
Mhm.
They got their first round right tackle. So let's see if Rousseau can abuse the guy. So when you're looking from our defense, what are you looking for this week? Is it just a continuation of what we saw last week, or do you want to see more from that defensive line?
I want to see our interior get a little bit stronger. I like to see Puna Ford. I want to see what Puna Ford still has, what he's capable of, especially at his size. I want to see what Tim Settle, what his ability, what he can do. Bias me. I will again. I know DJ Dale got hurt, and hopefully he can play in this game. But again, DJ Dale made a play and then he got hurt. So hopefully, and he did a pretty good, when he was limited there, he did a pretty good job of even pushing the pocket. So hopefully we get to see more time of him. That's just bias me since I'm a Bama fan. But no, yeah, I would love to see this interior get a little bit better. I think edge presence. I think AJ Epinesa, he's had a very, very good camp. Very good camp. And I would like to see more of that progression get pushed onto the field. I think Boogie Basham is going to be one of those guys that I think he is on the bubble. I think he's a guy that's been on the bubble since camp has started, and he's literally been fighting for an opportunity to try to make this roster. So there's just, there's a lot of depth at the edge rushing position, especially when Vaughn comes back. You have Vanessa, you'll have you have Floyd. You just you have a lot of guys.
Shaq.
Yep, for real. Yep. Shaq Lawson, all those guys there. So it's competition. I thought Basham had a solid game with the reps that he had so far, but he needs to be better. He needs to keep it up, and he needs to be a lot better. He needs to really show how he can, really not just make this roster, but how he can be in the discussion for in the rotation again. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. But I'm more. Again, what's going to happen with this defensive line? What's going to happen with this with overall edge rushing presence? Can we continue to establish a little more pressure, much on a better? Because the Colts again, with besides Quinn Nelson, they've been trending downwards kind of ever since for over the last 2 to 3 years. They've kind of been going in the wrong direction. The Steelers have a much better offensive line, overall much better depth, much better playmaking skill position type players. They just have a young quarterback that's going to be right in the backfield. But we need this group to be better because, like we said before, this inside linebacking group, I have no idea what's going to go on there. So it's a great sign if, again, you want to make the inside linebacking's job a little bit easier. Let's continue to put pressure on the quarterback. Let's continue to fill in our run gap lanes. Let's continue to push the pocket a little bit more often. Let's make it more difficult and let's make it messy for this for their offense so that our inside linebackers could have a much easier job. Because if we can't provide any pressure, I'm telling you, that middle is going to be wide open. That middle is going to be picked apart all day long. I have no confidence at all in what Cousins and Spector and what Bernard can do.
Yeah, I'm concerned about that too. I want to see a different rotation a little bit. I want to see what Puna does next to Oliver. I imagine we're going to see Daquan this week. We didn't see him last week, so that's also going to help our run game. Because I thought Settle and Oliver, were out of gaps. I don't think Settle's a one tech.
No,
I think he's more. I think he's more of a 3 tech. He was playing 1 tech last week because he has the size. But I think he's better if you put him at 3 tech. When you moved him to 3 next to Puna, they wreaked havoc because he shoots that gap so quick.
And he's never been a 1 tech. I mean, even when he was playing at Virginia Tech, he was a 3 tech.
Yeah.
I mean, they love his size, but
we used them as a one tech last year. Yeah. Well, we used them as a one tech last year too. And I think we just played him out of position. You know, I think if we use him as truly as a 3 tech and then let Daquan and Puna run the 1 tech, I think we're going to be fine. You know, and then rotate Oliver, Jordan Phillips, and Settle and let those guys just go get it constantly. But I want to see Puna with Ed. I want to see Puna with, you know, Jordan Phillips if he plays. I want to see him more this week. I felt like he didn't really get into the game until, you know, the second quarter, you know, and then you saw him wreak havoc. But it's like, did he wreak havoc because he was going against inferior, you know, players, or did he wreak havoc because he's just that good? So I want to see him with the ones more. So let's talk a little bit about this secondary. Looks like Dane Jackson's getting closer and closer to securing CB2. None of us want that. We want to see one of the young guys. So I have a feeling this week's gonna, you know, be a big test for them. I have a feeling you're gonna see Dane Jackson out there with the first team. Yeah. But I see them rotating both Elam and Benford and a little bit with the first team. If they're going to play a full quarter, I see him rotating those guys in.
I think we need to pray that happens, because I like Dane Jackson, man, and again, I think he gets too many strays and bullets, man. But I like you have a first round draft pick right there, man, with so much upside and so much potential, man, and we never want to put these players in those sort of positions. I don't know, we just never want to do it. So I would love to see Elam rotate, get him some more experience, get him some more synergization with his defense. I'm a little worried that's not going to happen. I mean, it's preseason, so we hope that it happens. I pray that it happens, but based off what I've seen, they love Jackson. They love Jackson. They love what he brings to the table. They love how he understands and how he's able to grasp the defense a lot more quickly than Elam is. He's the guy with the highest, with the floor, not the person with the highest ceiling. And I think they just want to say, you know what? We got Trey on one side. We got the best safety tam in the National Football League. We got Teron Johnson, who's one of the best slot guys. Dane Jackson wasn't that bad as filling in as that number 1 role. We feel like he can handle that Levi Wallace, that number 2 responsibility. You know, we'll just leave it at that and just have Elam still learn right behind, develop, and maybe third year we'll see what happens. But I hope that Elam overall just rotates. I think it would be good for this defense and just overall his development.
No, I would agree with that. I want to see Elam, and I want to see Benford in there too. I don't need to see a ton of Trey White. I really don't. I'd like to see him play a series or two and then get him out of there and let the 2 young kids continue to get more reps. Get them as many reps as possible. See what they can do with the starters. Like I don't need to see a ton of Poyer and Hyde either. Get all 3 of those guys out there. Get Rapp more reps. Get Hamlin back out there banging, because Hamlin looked good last week coming back too. You know, I want to touch on this one. This is a great comment from Spin. He says he sees Milano, Williams, Dotson, Spector, Bernard, and Matakevich making it. I only think 5 make it. And right now, I have a feeling Spector is the odd man out.
Yeah, because they're keeping Tyler. But they're not going to get rid of him. He's a special teams ace.
Yep.
He's a special teams ace. They're not going to leave him out. Williams will definitely make it. That's not. I think Williams will make it. Bernard will make it. Dotson does have value on special teams, so I don't think they're gonna. Yeah, it would be Spector. Spector would. I mean, and Spector's pretty. I mean, he's solid on special teams as well, but it's just about who much they value and whether it's gonna be Dotson or Spector. I guess who's cheaper? Who's the more cheaper player? Who's the one guy that if they can cut, they're just not. It's not really gonna hurt them that much.
Honestly, Spector's the cheapest one. You know, late round pick. You know, he'll go to the practice squad. Him or Dotson, you know, and we know Dotson right now is technically our starting middle linebacker, so he's not going anywhere. They're not getting rid of the 2 third-round draft picks. And then Matakevich has some money. Someone asked in here, speaking of that, about trading Tim Settle, if that would take his cap hit with him. All but his guaranteed money, yes, would go with his thing. Whatever we paid him from a bonus standpoint would be is what we keep. So I think the majority of his cap hit goes with him if we did trade him. But you have to show him, and he has to play well for someone to want him. I think it's wonderful that Jackson's winning it. Both Elam are going to better this year for starter level CBs. Jessica, that's fantastic. You're right. Like, we're in a very good position. Like, we're all complaining because we want to see Elam or Benford take it because they're the younger guys, but we're in a, it's a good problem to have when you have 4 guys who are starter level at corner in a passing league. That most don't have, 3. And we have really 5 because Teron Johnson. We have 5 starters, that could 6 with White. We have 6 guys who could start at corner. That's awesome. You can't be upset with that at all.
Good problem to have.
It's a really good problem to have. All right, so overall, when we look at it, what are you expecting this game to look like? Are you truly expecting the starters to play a quarter and a half, or do you see them going out, executing, and getting out of there? We'll start with offense.
I think hopefully we can go with plan B. I think that probably overall it will be a quarter and a half. I think that for the most part, because they didn't, a lot of these guys really didn't play that much in the first half, whether it was limited snaps or simply just were on the bench. I feel like for the most part, in live game action, we'll see some time. I think Josh Allen will probably get maybe a series or 2. And that's depending on how well they're able to execute, right? Typically preseason games, Josh Allen's offense, they get the groove, they get it going extremely early, and they've actually been very extremely efficient during their first series or 2. And again, the Broncos game last year was a perfect kind of example how they played a little bit longer than what you will want to, but when they did, they still was able to dominate. It was able to move effortlessly. I think the same thing could potentially happen here, but I would personally like to see more players rotate because it's 3 games. We know what a lot of these first team guys are able to kind of bring to the table. The offense, again, for the most part, because, again, if we can include more of the 12 or 13, or again, a lot of the things that we were promised of getting, I can see a quarter and a half being that. However, if we're simply just going to run it, a more simple textbook type of offense, let's just see a series or 2, and then let's just get some of the young guys in there, because again, they're fighting for their positions. They're fighting for job opportunities. Let's get them in there as much as we can, instead of the guys that we already know have already kind of secured their positions. So that's what I would like to see. But again, if Ken Dorsey can just stick to the game, if Ken Dorsey can go back, and if he wants to include more wrinkles into the offense, then yeah, we could see a lot more longer.
Yeah, a lot of Levi Wallace chat in there. We get to see Levi tomorrow. He'll be playing. I agree. I would like to see Josh get 2 series. I'd like to see him be efficient. I don't want to see Josh more than 2 series, though. You want to leave the offensive line out there or mix and match the offensive line with some starters, I'm okay with that too. I don't need to see Josh into the second quarter at all. I guess it really depends on how long our defense is out on the field. Like last week, our starters only got 6 snaps because it was like a turnover, quick touchdown, 2 long drives, and then we came out and went 3 and out, and they were done. Because it was almost the end of the first quarter. So it really depends on that. But I don't want to see Josh or Diggs more than 2 series. That's probably yeah. Hopefully they come out, they're sharp, they go down, they score a touchdown. They come out, they're sharp, they go down, get some more points, whether it's touchdown or field goal, and they're done for the night. And then we get to watch,
I would rather see Kincaid probably get a little bit more reps, just so that he can try to get a little more familiarity. Yeah, with more familiarity with the offense. But that again, if like I said, they start off the gate, Kincaid looks excellent. Let's say he gets maybe a couple catches for 20-something yards. I'm fine with that. Rest them all up. I've seen all I needed to see. Especially if I see with Knox and Kincaid both out there at the same time, and they're getting more involved in the passing attack. All I need to see. Rest them up, sit them down, regular season time. We could talk about that later. I'm done if I see that.
Yeah. Scott, yeah, McDermott said, the plan is a quarter and a half, give or take. It really depends on how they're executing. I can see the defense out there more a quarter and a half, the starting defensive line and the linebackers and some of those guys. I don't know if you're going to see White, Hyde, and Poyer for a quarter and a half, but I can see a lot of the starters playing a quarter and a half. I just don't think you need to see Allen and Diggs and Poyer and Hyde and White and some of these guys who are key to our season out there for a quarter and a half. You want to get Torrance and Bates and McGovern and Brown and those guys some work. Great. I don't need to see Mitch Morris for a quarter and a half. Go sit him down after when Josh leaves, he leaves. That's my take on it. So, all right, guys. Any other questions from the chat before we wrap this thing up? And because we'll be back tomorrow after the game, we're going to do a post game. I know Tommy said that he was going to hop on. If I'm available, I'm hop on. Jarek, if you want to hop on with us after the game, you're more than welcome, brother.
Sweet.
We always appreciate you in here. Any final thoughts on your end while we're waiting for the chat to come in with anything that they have?
Yeah, I just want a smooth transition. No big time injuries with the first team. I want to see everything. I want to see this offense click on all cylinders. I want to see again way more innovation, way more creativity from this offense. I want to see James Cook continue to get more involved in the offense, like I was able to see last week, because I definitely think he's going to have a big year, and everything that we've seen so far in camp, and the short time we did see him in preseason games, he looks really, really good. I don't know if is Harris playing this game?
He practiced all week, but he was limited all week, so I don't know if they're going to put him in there or not.
Yeah, so hopefully he play. I would love to see Damian Harris play, because if this is our second guy, we got to see what he can do. We got to see what he can do behind this. If he doesn't,
I don't know if he's going to be our second guy.
I don't know if he's going to make the roster. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to make this roster.
Because last week watching our running backs, they all looked pretty decent. Like Dre, Evans looked good. That young kid, that jumped over some dude going down the sidelines. Like, they didn't have, anything to write home about yards per carry, but overall, if you can't, you can't stay on the field, you can't be on this roster. It's, we can't be giving, we can't be giving roster spots to guys who can't stay healthy.
That was
Scott says, yep. Scott comes in and says they will not show creativity, vanilla. Want them to get used to speed. Yeah, I think they'll be a little bit creative. I don't think they're going to go crazy, but I think you'll see some of the motion. I think you're going to see with Josh out there, they're not going to go completely vanilla because they don't want to get him hurt. They're going to want to get a little bit of this stuff to practice.
Yeah, I don't want to see any QB design runs or any read option or RPO base. I just want to, But I do want to see something. I do want to see like Kincaid and Knox be a little bit more involved into the offense, show some more 12, 13, if possible, involving more of our H-backs. Like that's what I want to see, a little bit of that, because we've been seeing it all during training camp. And if that doesn't progress, and if that doesn't turn into a game situation, then why are we running these in camp? So that's what I like to see.
Yeah. You're probably right. Everyone's like, Harris is making this roster, get him healthy, get him ready for the season. I just want to see him play. My biggest concern with Harris is that he's always hurt. That's all. I like the guy. Latavius Murray is going to be one of those sneaky great signing streaks. You're absolutely right. How we ended up with him, I don't know, but I love the fact that we do. If the Steelers cut Mitch Trubisky, does Kyle Allen not do well? No, Mitch isn't going anywhere, guys. Mitch just signed a new 3-year deal with Pittsburgh this offseason with some guaranteed money. So he'll be on the roster. Mitch ain't going nowhere because he was signed as a starter. They redid his deal as a backup. So he now has a backup deal. I think he's making $6 million this year or something like that, $8 million. So it'll be one of those things. All right. This looks like they're just talking to each other. All right. Jack, I appreciate you coming aboard, brother, and filling in for Tommy tonight. Tomorrow night or tomorrow after the game, we will be going live for a post game. Hopefully, Jarrett can jump on with us. Otherwise, Tommy and I will be here. We appreciate everyone riding in the chat. It was on fire like always. Other than that, go Bills.
Go Bills.